Right, so this is a very different type of podcast today. It's some students that have been with me, and I'm sure with other teachers as well. And we're going to chat about their own practice history and stuff like that. So it's a special one, and I hope you enjoy it. So welcome to Keen on Yoga, and thanks everyone for coming on today and agreeing to spend this time with me to chat a little bit about your experience with practice. Joanne, do you want to just say a minute or two on explain how and why you started?
Well, I used to do a lot of ballet, and then I wasn't doing any exercise for quite a few years. Again, drinking nights got in the way of that. And then I was covering a ballet class at a place in Stanmore, and I saw the advert for Ashtanga yoga. I thought, oh, well, it fits in on my Monday evenings. So I just went along and gave it a go, and I just loved it because it made sense with the alignments, which ballet is very much alignment. And also ballet has a progressive class. You start with pliés, you do tongus, and the sense, the Ashtanga sense, it all made sense to me because it progresses through the practice, doesn't it? You do standing, you do seated. Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, I get this. And the alignment, as I say, and the self-discipline as well, because ballet is very self-disciplined. So, and a self-practice. So it's just fitted with the way I'd been brought up with exercise, I think. Yeah. And then, then I just practiced just one lesson a week, really, and did lots of workshops, loads, because I'm quite lucky. I live near London, so I could go to Kino and David Swenson and John Scott and all that. So I was quite lucky with all that. And I learned a lot about the postures through workshops. And then a few years ago, I went to live with my mum because of a relationship breakdown. And then I started self-practice then. Right. And I haven't looked back since.
Okay, so prior to that, you were doing some lead classes and, and just kind of going to workshops and dipping in and out, were you? And then you committed a few years ago.
Yeah, just the lead. I never did any self-practice. But
Nani, do you want to just explain a little bit about how you got an interesting story about how you got into it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started my first yoga class maybe 20 some years ago, and it was just a support for my martial arts. I just thought, oh, well, I need to practice more flexibility. So I went to a Bikram's yoga class, hot yoga class. And for years, I just did yoga on the side. It didn't serve any other purpose than to support my martial arts. And so somehow it snuck up on me that it took up more room practicing yoga and less studying martial arts, doing martial arts. I was teaching martial arts at the time. So I kind of got more and more into it. And at some point I started Hatha yoga, and I did a Hatha yoga teacher training. And then I started Ashtanga yoga late, maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And at first I studied by myself. I'm self-taught. And then later on, I really caught the Ashtanga fever. And I did workshops and started going to classes and seminars till I found you.
Lucky you did.
Yes, indeed.
Well, or unlucky. It depends on which way you look at it. I think that's an interesting point, is that you kind of carried on both in tandem for a while, which is kind of unusual as well. And then what made, if I could ask, what made you what was the straw that broke the camel's back that kind of swapped you from the martial art to the yoga? Do you remember a point when you just thought, well, this is, I'm going the other way around now, that the martial art will support my yoga, or could it?
And no, I kind of didn't want to admit it, that yoga was more and more important because I was the martial artist. I wasn't a yogi,
right.
So, but at some point I realized, okay, I have one more goal in martial arts. And at 49, I quit martial arts altogether. And I said, I'm only going to do yoga. So, but no, I cannot recall a moment where I thought, okay, I switch, it kind of just melted and crossed path, and one went into the other. But there's a lot of
Mm.
similarities in martial arts and in yoga too. I also do Tai Chi. You were talking about that before. So there's a lot of similarities in the meditative and in the, in the postures and the asanas and the meticulousness and in strength and so forth. And in the same quest actually as in yoga. So.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I came from a martial arts background, and one thing is you can do the yoga alone. You never need a partner to do the yoga, really. Whereas the martial arts is kind of helpful to have partners and stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
But I suppose in the martial arts, you've got the katas, right? You've got the different sequences, and then yoga, you've got the series, and it's another interesting thing that a lot of people get into Ashtanga, they've not done any other yoga, whereas you said you'd started with the Hatha yoga, and also I started with Hatha yoga as well. It was a lot later that I got into the Ashtanga, and it was just kind of a bit faster tempo, which suited me better. But I kind of dabbled around with a Iyengar yoga. It was nice, and Hatha yoga, and so I had an idea. Whereas many people, they have to question what they were learning because they just been stuck. They're going to give an Ashtanga class, and they didn't realize, that there were different things. This is yoga, So,
well, I have to say that the first time I did an Ashtanga yoga class, I thought I was in the wrong movie or something, because really I had done Hatha yoga for many, many years and taught Hatha yoga also. And then I did my first Ashtanga yoga class, and I remember calling a friend and I said, you know what? I think I've never done yoga in my life. I couldn't do a thing. It was.
I know. I know. I had the same. I just remember progressively laughing. I remember at very point it was a Janushirshasana. And then it got to Janushirshasana C, and I was just laughing. This is a joke. This is Aime.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I started by mistake. Definitely. I was meant to go to a body pump class. I was really into the gym scene, and I was an aerobics instructor, and I've heard of, there was a yoga instructor teaching classes at the same gym, and people would be like, oh, you should try yoga, and I was like, it's too easy, it wasn't challenging enough. That's what I thought, because I thought I was just stretching and breathing, and I just wasn't into that at all. So but I by mistake at another gym was going to as I said, body pump class, and got the schedule mixed up, and it was actually an Ashtanga class, and the guy was teaching primary series. I don't even remember, but the only thing that stayed with me was it was so hard, it was so challenging, and I just had to keep doing it. And it was like, so that was like 2008, and then I just kind of didn't renew my gym membership to go to those classes. And he said, if you really like this, there's a girl teaching at the Y, and she was actually Angie Burt. She was a teacher she was teaching in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, Canada. And she was a student of Mark Darby, actually. She did a teacher training with him. And so she was, so I was hooked from them. But really, I think like most people, I would just do lead classes. I don't think it was till 2014. And actually it was when I met you, Adam, that I really started, progressing, but like do practicing at home on my own. And because up until then, did workshops, did some vinyasa classes. There was a Mysore studio in Halifax at the time, and I did a few Mysore sessions, but I just didn't get it. It didn't click. I was just like, it's easier just to go to a class, and it fits with my schedule, and it was in the evening. So, but yeah, it wasn't until, and actually 2014, but then really COVID, when you start teaching online, that's when I was really doing, a morning practice. Like it really kind of clicked that it was working. I got, yeah.
I thought
actually
you were doing
being
it
pregnant,
all along.
I practiced more. I got so into it when I was pregnant, probably more than ever. So yeah. Oh,
that's funny. Well, I've been teaching you on and off for so many years. I just assumed you'd carried it.
Well, no, I would go through little pockets. Like I would do, because I was teaching at a studio in Doha.
Right.
And
yeah, I know.
And because of my job, I could never practice in the morning. So I try to squeeze in a practice here and there, but it was never so consistent. Whereas you really feel the benefits when it's more consistent, So it's always
yeah.
progressing. Like it feels now, this time in my life feels like I actually have a established practice somewhat, you know, more than I ever have. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think the thing is, if I'd been practicing with the online format as well, I think I would have found that easier, because I never really, apart from going to Mysore, you know, in daily life when you're back home and stuff, I never really managed to kind of find a daily life commitment to one place. Like I go
it's hard,
to London to Hamish's for a week, and then it's like something would get in the way and it would break up and I wouldn't go again. And, you know, I was never one that, you know, I guess if you got a job in town, and, you know, you'd go in every morning and then go to work, but because I didn't, you know, I've never really found that, you know. All right. I don't want to talk too much. Paloma.
Hi. Well, I don't know. I started because I needed to change and I needed help. So I was a bit lost doing things that I didn't like it. And then I found this shamans, and I went with them for 2 years, traveling around and doing some crazy stuff, walking on hot, cold, or I don't know, active meditation, I don't know. And then I came to Barcelona because of them, because they kind of give me assignment to do. And then I found yoga. It was I went to Ashtanga class with Nick Evans. Was my first teacher, and I really love it. At the moment was just fitting in my needs to be active and move and occupy my mind with other thing that wasn't my mind itself. So I really stick to it. And then when I see myself, I was already there, and I was traveling to India to study with Rolf, because Nick used to talk about him a lot. And then I never really leave it. I was from that time on, 2006, following this. I had some points that I wasn't that constant when my daughter was born. But yeah, then I stay there.
We're doing with the shamans. What were you doing with them? Were you doing ayahuasca or any kind of
no, I
drug
didn't.
therapies? No, you didn't do that kind of stuff.
No. I never liked that.
Right.
I met lots of people who did it, but I didn't. They were more like Osho meditations. They were like Russian shamans, super crazy. I cannot describe. I think maybe they were like, I don't know, but after a while that get in the news that they were like deceiving people or something, I don't really care. But at that moment, they take me out of that cloud. And I don't know if it was the belief that they were helping me or they're really helping me. But I think I was already wanted help and get out of my own head and habits, and so I just accept the help and get out.
That's an interesting story. Yeah. Nicola.
So my first experience with yoga was when I was dragged to a class by a friend in the sixth form at college, and I was so bad at it. I'm inflexible now, even after 20 years of doing it, but then I was terrible. And so, you know, I just went back to drinking, partying and step aerobics because I couldn't cope with the fact that I was so terrible at it. Then my next experience was when I was pregnant with Liv about 21 years ago, and my neighbour's an Iyengar teacher, And she said, oh, come to my class. It'll make the birth so much easier. And so obviously I didn't need asking twice about that. And so I went and tried it again. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But then once I'd had the children and went back to work full time, I really struggled to fit it in. I didn't really know about self-practice at that point in time. So I had remember the Katie Appleton DVDs that were out sort of in the
not personally.
Okay. I think you'd like them.
I do know who she is. Yeah.
And so I used to sort of practice with those on the lounge floor in the evening while the children were in bed.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of kept looking for another yoga class like that. I went and did the gym yogas with the body balance and that sort of thing. But again, because I've got such a busy mind, they just made my mind busier and busier and busier. And so they never really quite did it for me. And I stumbled on Ashtanga completely by accident in my mid-40s. I just found a yoga class. I didn't even read the word Ashtanga. Went along and absolutely loved it, and then found out about self-practice. And so I'd go to maybe 3 classes a week because I like classes. I like in person. I like being around people, even if it's Mysore style. I just think there's an energy of practicing with others. So even the online, I know it sounds really weird.
You just want those strong adjustments, don't you?
Yeah, I do like those.
Yeah,
I do like those. Yeah. But even the online Mysore, there's like an energy that comes through the screen of knowing that there are other people there.
There is, yeah. I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a pertinent point that the self-practice is a shift, isn't it? And I didn't really think about it because obviously I've done it for a long time, but it is a shift, isn't it, between lead classes and doing something on your own. And it's a very different thing. But then a self-practice in the morning, you do it on your own. That's a whole different kettle of fish, isn't it? And
it is, but it's nice as well. It's nice to have that balance, because I think that when you're in a class with other people around, you've got this big energy and you're buoyed up to, to practice your hardest and really, I don't know, just really do your best there. Whereas when you practice on your own, you've just got that bit of time to let things settle and to think about things more and to notice things that you don't do when there's all that going on around you. I think it depends what kind of person you are, even in a Mysore room when I'm doing my own practice, and I do manage to zone into myself at times, but I'm quite an easily distractible person. And so if I see something that's really interesting going on, or a way somebody's tackling a posture, then I'm just drawn to watching that, which you don't have at home, do you? You've just got yourself and your own thoughts, and you've just got to knuckle down and get on with it.
Greg, do you want to? I actually don't know much about how you started at all, so I'm very interested to hear this.
I guess it started with lockdown, and like the first day of lockdown, we thought me and my wife would do the Joe Wicks thing to like keep our 5-year-old like active, and after the second day, he was lying on the sofa while me and my wife were doing like the silly Billy, which is one of his moves, and just thought, no, this can't be for us. And the next kind of thing was like yoga with Adrian, doing like 30 days of yoga, and I think like we ended up doing like 2 the first day, and it's kind of snowballed from there into like moving through doing like 2 classes a day, and then my wife started saying like, this isn't fun anymore, you're just trying to do hard yoga. Then she kind of stopped, and I started doing like aloes classes, so that kind of kept me going through lockdown, having something to kind of focus on and something to kind of put energy towards. And then after about a year, I guess I found like Laruga's classes on there. It seemed like all of the classes I enjoyed had Ashtanga the title, but we're like Ashtanga remix or something like that. So if that word means something, like go and have a look what this is. So I found Laruga's classes, and I did them kind of quite consistently for maybe 6 months. And I really enjoyed it. Found it, more. I still don't know why. A thing. Like it really resonated for some reason to have that kind of consistency.
It's sort of really funny because you probably never met Laruga as well, so you have this connection with the teacher. You probably, she's an inspiring character online as well, right? So, and yet, she didn't know that you as a student, and you probably didn't know her as well, right?
Yeah, no, it's very strange, especially with those videos you do over and over and over again. It becomes quite comforting. It's like, morning, person I've never met. But and then I guess like kind of had a kind of, I've never really been a sporty person. Used to like cycle around London, but like I was 5 foot until I was 16, so not exactly going to be in all the sports teams. And then it was like, oh, I kind of got an aptitude for this. I can do this, which was a kind of strange feeling. So kind of liked it a lot. And then after about 6 months, about a year, I guess, like I found Joe Miles's online Mysore. Worked with him for like a year and a half. And it's quite a nice setup because you have the self-practice 3 days a week and the kind of leg classes 2 days a week. And then like lockdown kind of ended and life became life again. And so I needed to start kind of working towards being able to fit in as much practice as I wanted to do, and having a job. So then I found your class, which is like earlier, so I'm able to kind of fit everything in. It's kind of it, I guess. So you didn't do, because Greg, I imagine you probably haven't seen Greg, but he's got a good practice. He's reached a reasonable, he's definitely got an aptitude for it, let's say. But you didn't have any background in sports, or you weren't doing anything prior to the Joe Wicks. This was apart from a bit of cycling. Is that right? Even that, to be honest, like we left London maybe a year before lockdown. So like kind of like, what it's like living in London, you kind of you end up cycling like 7 miles to get to work, even though you live in one city. So like you're always fairly active. But then when we left London, like we moved to the middle of the countryside, and you think like, oh, it's going to be wonderful. Going to go on like 7-mile walks every day. But then you're kind of, oh, that's farmland. You can't walk there. You can walk on the road and get run down by a tractor. So like you end up like spending much more time in the car. So they're like fairly inactive. Like couldn't touch my toes or anything. But like after, I guess a good example is maybe just like my son started doing gymnastics like 3 months ago, and like kind of now he's on a development team. I think we're just the right size and shape to be stretched into things. But plus I work from home for myself, so during lockdown it was quite nice to be able to like send emails, and then every third email you try and do a handstand and see if you fall on your face. Right. Thanks for sharing that. So you found something in the end. You weren't picked for the basketball team, but nevertheless, you found something in the yoga. Yeah. No. I mean, it's like even when I was at school, like I was the Cox on the rowing team. So it's like, how little exercise can we make this human do, and see if he still exists? It's a good story. Thanks. What made you start practice, Meggy? Why did you? Couple minutes.
Hi.
Not an hour.
I started practicing because basically we ran out of ideas with my doctor. I was suffering from anxiety, and he's like, okay, nothing's working. You know what? Try yoga. I'm like, so skeptic. I was like, that's not for me. Not really. But, when you have no other choice, and you're like, okay, why not? Why not? So basically that's what happened. And then it caught me more than I caught it. And I had stopped on and off for many years until I found Ashtanga. And then I got all things and it became I think an obsession. Now it's Paloma, but yeah. Like to change so many things. I went from no, that's not for me to yes, I'm in 1,000,000%. So
It's kind of like a last resort, really. When you've tried everything else, I may as well give that a go. Sounds like a load of rubbish, but yeah, see it. Yeah, as I've always said, I always wanted to try Tai Chi, really. So I just stumbled upon yoga myself. The plan was to do Tai Chi, but it clashed with a good drinking night at university. So I ended up in yoga. Lisa, last but not least, my longest term student, Lisa Robbins.
I started yoga 34 years ago. I was living in Hong Kong and my membership to the pool expired. And a friend said, try my class. And that was it. And it was an Ashtanga class. And it was one of those marvelous coup de fou. I just loved it from the very start. Then I moved many years later to London and I met Adam. And Adam had an Ashtanga class with a difference. He had a way of encouraging us, no matter where we were, no matter what place we were in our practice. There was no feeling of needing to compete. And what I loved about it from the very start was the way he would encourage us in a very upbeat manner to be where we are. Yoga allows me to stretch, Ashtanga specifically allows me to stretch every part of my body, and it's portable. My body, wherever I am, my body's there. All I need is a towel if necessary, if I'm traveling, but a mat's much better. So at first it was more of an exercise. It was a way of feeling good, feeling that I was introducing space into my body. And laterally, over time, it's become a yoke. I mean, that is what yoga is, a union, a yoke with the universe, if you will, a kind of way of connecting. After I do my yoga with Adam, and I'm so grateful for the COVID online because it allows me to continue with my master. I'm doing yoga, I'm doing meditation, which was never the initial idea, but now I understand what it's preparing me for.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for the advert as well. I should have thought about this before, this kind of podcast. Free advert to the Mysore. But no, Lisa, it's been lovely to have you all these years. And I'm pleased to hear that I was even back in that time quite encouraging. I feel I have shifted in my perspective on the teachings, and so it's nice to hear that you found me encouraging from that time as well. So I realized we could have rambled a little bit, and we haven't rambled, but we've taken more time on these questions than I thought we might have. So we've only got to question one. So let's just get a few sentences, and we'll go round a few questions, I think, now, and just a rapid fire, a little bit faster, right? And see, not that it's your fault. I've enjoyed hearing what you've been having to say, but people probably want to hear a few more questions. So, right, starting with Joanne. How, in a few sentences, how has practice changed your life? Has it changed your life?
It's made me feel much healthier, much more. Right. And since lockdown, we got sent home from school, and I was like, right, now I'm going to get on my mat, and I set my alarm, and it's made me more focused, I think, and it's helped my mind by focusing and getting disciplined and learning to listen to my body each morning, on practicing on my own. It's quite tough getting up every morning and doing it, but then you learn something about yourself as well, about encouraging yourself and believing in yourself and believing in the practice as well. But yeah, it's made me feel healthy. I've also, because I'm on my own, I wouldn't go on holiday on my own, but I go on a Ashtanga retreat. So I've met lots of friends. So it's really opened up my world that way. I used to go to Yoga Plus in Crete and meet a lot of people and stuff. So that's opened up to the world, really, which is quite exciting.
Absolutely. That's a great comment. And I've obviously very much a soft spot for Yoga Plus, and yeah, it's a great way to meet people and like-minded people in a nice environment, which is, you know, focused on something kind of sensible, other than just going out and having a good time, which is not necessarily bad either, but nevertheless. Meggy, how has practice affected or changed you and your life?
It changed everything. I had that before I started. I was 19, was a long time ago, 15 years ago, and I could not understand myself, the world, and I was so lost. And my anxiety and agoraphobia were making me so. I was distressing my body and my mind, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And when I started yoga, I realized that I was not my enemy, that my body and mind were not my enemy. But I still wasn't, you know, because I was doing yoga on and off, it didn't have such an impact. I knew I was feeling better, but when I started Ashtanga seriously in October 2021, it changed everything. And I feel now that I'm connecting to myself, that I'm finding a community that actually resonates with me, that it's so important to be able to share. We have different experiences, and some have anxiety too, or depression, or they have injuries, and we can all share and connect. And I think that's what was missing for me, that idea that I feel safer in my life, and it's brought me a routine while also challenging me. So I feel so much better in my life every day that I'm practicing. And I'm quite happy that I actually, I'm self-disciplined, but waking up every morning super early to go to practice, it really is hard. And when you get the right places, the right teachers, the right people, you do it, and you do it for yourself. And I think it brought me a lot of growth too. So I'm very, very happy. And yeah, my life has changed completely.
That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, very nice. And yeah, there's something about the support of other people, isn't there? Or knowing that other people are there, even if it's online, you know that people will be there. And then, you know, the sense of, well, they're there, then I should be there too. Or I can be there if they are there, you know, they're doing it. I even used to feel that when I was getting up in the morning, you know, very early, when the Ashtanga teachers used to, I don't know, they probably still do, get up at like 1 or 2 in the morning and practice before teaching, you know, that was a thing, you know. And I always used to feel like I was supported by other Ashtanga teachers that were there doing that stupid thing at the same time. Anyway, no longer do I get up that early, don't worry. Nani, what was the question again? How has practice affected or changed your life? Well, it's a general question. So.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can approach it in many ways, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the things that is the emotional balance. I think it gave me more balance with my feelings and with my thoughts, just by approaching life in a different way, not judging so much and not looking at things in such a, oh my God, drama kind of way, or oh my God, that's terrible kind of way, just to look at things more even keeled and to just understand, oh, well, that's life, you know, and just as much as you understand that in yoga, the limitations of your body, or in an asana, you understand to accept and say, well, that's how it is. Well, that's how it is in life, you know, not to worry about what was and not to worry about what could be, but just to be present and say, okay, this is how it is. And it has also helped me in my relationship with others. So with raising a child, no, I'm raising my son by myself. So it has helped me there just to be more understanding, to be more calm, to, I guess, you know, lots of people say equanimous, to be more even keeled. Yeah. So that's the key change or key impact on my life that yoga had.
Fantastic. And an amazing use of a word that I can hardly say in English. So as a third language, that's pretty good. I always struggle with it. Equanimity, yes, but equanimous, you know, that can be tricky sometimes. That can kind of come out kind of wrong. Aime.
Yeah, I think, how has it changed my life? Well, I feel like that changes in itself. every few years.
Mm.
Like when I first started, I was really into working out. I was like obsessed with lifting weights and doing aerobics and, you know, boxing and anything. And then the difference, and then when I started practicing, and I was introduced to yoga, Ashtanga first, right, by mistake, as I said. I just found there was something different, you know, there was something more than just working out. Because obviously, like, I was attracted to practice and stuck with it because of the physical challenge, you know, that it was so dynamic that way. And then, yeah, so that kind of kept me, that changed. I felt like I didn't need anything else. It was just like covering all the bases. And then it was something more. I don't know. I didn't know quite what that was yet. And then, you know, now, then of course that it's from when I started until now, it's changed many times. But for now, like it keeps me kind of more honest with myself. And yeah, it keeps me grounded and level for my son as well, same as what Nani was saying. Because I'm pretty much raising a child by myself too, right now as well, because my husband works, Dan works away. And, you know, raising a toddler can it can be the most frustrating thing in the world. So yeah, you need something to just kind of level you. And yeah, that's definitely, if I didn't have it, I guess I'd be all over the place. Yeah. So I need that grounding, that tether for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all. It's
all well and good when you, I mean, it definitely is something which takes it to another level when you're having to do those kind of things, and it's all well and good when it's just yourself, you know, so it always makes me feel better. But then when you're challenged with life circumstances, then it can become really, and it's a time for you, I suppose, as well, isn't it? I think a time for you, which is your time, you know, which is, I think, a special thing if all your time is devoted to, you know, looking after your family, you know. Paloma.
Well, for me, it changed everything. Everything around me starts to change bit by bit, without me really knowing where I was going. And I didn't realize, but it's true that I had lots of faith since the beginning. So I was like blindly faith, like I just trust this gonna change everything. And I was really amazed with the movements. And I was never really, you know, flexible and strong and stuff. So it was a challenge. And this was my first reason. Then this starts to mutate and transform over the years, still transforming. But I have this faith that is really helping me to ground myself and be happy with who I am.
Yeah. Echoes of Nani there in terms of, just to trying to, I mean, the obvious, really just trying to be and feeling like you're more acceptive of how things actually are. Also, the faith thing is kind of interesting because, I mean, Aime mentioned something slightly like that with the sense of honesty. And I think for me, committing to doing something every day made a huge difference because I didn't really trust myself before that I could kind of commit and keep up and do something every day, you know. And, you know, granted, that was kind of a long time ago and it was a student life. So, you know, it was all over the place and you'd wake up here and you'd wake up there, you know, which, you know, is probably not people's adult life experience. But, you know, I kind of felt like I didn't really have any boundaries anymore. I think someone else mentioned, maybe Meggy, just having some sense of context and some sense of routine and stability. And also, just that sense of integrity. I'm going to commit to this. And I'm going to commit to this. And then you endorse that experience when you actually do it. And you say, oh, yeah, I can do it. I can keep to something. I can commit to something, you know, and it makes you feel stronger. And it makes you, I don't know, trust yourself more altogether, you know, if you can keep to your word, whatever that thing is. Nicola.
I think the big changes for me have been in terms of learning to deal with things that I'm not entirely in control of. My roles in the past, I've been used to analysing the past and strategizing about the future, directing and controlling, big teams of people and businesses. And so it really has made me think that actually sometimes you can step back and not control things, and they will just unfold in a certain way that you can deal with as it happens. And that was kind of quite a revelation for me. So, I always thought to be really good at what I did, I needed to be on it and focused and controlling of everything, whereas it's been quite freeing. I think it's made me a much calmer person as well, which helps immeasurably with being a parent. You really do find that you can foster a much better relationship if you can keep calmer. So it's had a lot of benefits for me, and surprising ones as well.
Why do you think it let you let go a bit, or helped you let go a little bit, to rephrase that? Because what was it about the practice that kind of allowed you to not have to be in control?
Well, I think particularly when you're working on something that you can't do, my approach to it would be to analyze every movement that was needed in order to be able to lift into something or jump into something. So break it down, analyze it, understand how that works. But actually, sometimes if you just kind of stand back and let it happen, it just happens, doesn't it? So you have a little bit of maybe breaking it down and analyzing it and doing a few drills and things, but then when you just let go and stop trying to control it, sometimes it just happens of its own accord, because you kind of intuitively know what to do without your mind getting in the way all the time, and your mind having to to try and make things happen in a certain way that your mind perceives it has to be. And sometimes your body just does, doesn't it?
So without lapsing into cliche, it's slightly kind of getting back into the body a little bit, rather than just being kind of trying to control reality just through the mental processes, right? Just
and that reflects in life as well, because I think sometimes, things happen because they're going to happen that way anyway. And you just sometimes just try and control things too much.
Yes, one does tend to do that. Greg?
I don't know. I mean, it makes me happy, which I think is the main reason I do it. Like I try not to intellectualize it too much, because it kind of feels like this magical thing that if I kind of poke too much, it might unravel. But as a human, I feel like I go to cynicism like less kind of quickly, and maybe there's it's given me an extra second or two to kind of be able to think about situations before I react to them, maybe kind of slightly less angry as a human. But yeah, I mean, I think it's that thing where it's one of the tenets of happiness is like achievement, and it's nice to be able to have those little things where you're like, oh, today I did something that I couldn't do yesterday, and that kind of gives you a sense of self-belief, which is really helpful. I think in a kind of day-to-day sense. Yeah, I prefer the me now than the me of like 3 years ago, which I guess is as much as you can ask for.
Yeah, very nicely and practically framed. Yeah, I think that, to add to my consistency thing, yes, small demonstrations that you can do some work and can achieve something is, absolutely, it's very, very pleasing, especially if what you achieved you're pleased with, and it's a good advance. I guess
the point at which I started doing yoga was like I run a publishing company, and like me and my wife quite quickly we got to a point where we're like, oh, we've done this now, we kind of achieved our aims quite quickly, and then it's interesting when you get to that point you're like, oh, what do you just do this now? This is like, there's a consistent, you have to keep at a certain level, but there's very little kind of growth once you achieve your goals. And there is something nice about yoga and Ashtanga where it's like, well, you can never do that. Like, you can never, not only is there no end point, but it becomes so ridiculous that it's like, well, no. So it's nice to have something that can't be fully,
you're never going to master it. It's as you say, you wait until you get into 5th series and it's clear that it wasn't made for a human being. But there's always those challenges, and then and it'll always the gift keeps on giving. Lisa,
I was thinking about what we've been talking about with respect to how it changed me, is that it allowed me, it provided a foundation, which is kind of in the morning I do this, and that structure is brilliant. It doesn't matter what else happens and how I'm feeling. It provides a constant way in which I can ground myself. So that's been fantastic. And that's the first part of it, the foundation. But the second thing that's been fantastic about how it's changed things is that what am I doing? I'm focusing on my breath as I do the asanas on the Ujjayi breathing. And I have learned that same grounding that comes from doing the practice is very much related to the breath. And that has helped me when something goes wrong later in the day. I return to the breath, I ground myself, I take that step back and am able to cope with whatever it is in a better way. So for me, it's been both a way of grounding and providing a foundation, and secondly, the idea of the body being much wiser than I can ever be. Somebody mentioned about over-intellectualizing. I mean, I think we're all talking heads, and if we could just remember to go back to the body, to listen to the body, to understand what's coming up. And it starts, for me anyway, with the practice of the yoga.
Somehow when you're in the body, it's never so frightening as when you're in the head. So when you get back into the body, even though things are painful and you can go through those painful things, when you come out of that, it's a lot less frightening. I always used to feel that, like, whatever it is, you can kind of cope with it. If there's a feeling in the body, it's the mind that makes it a lot bigger. So there's definitely something about that, isn't there? And going into that.
But Ashtanga isn't for the faint-hearted. And I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. And there are things that I hear you say to other people or watch them do and think, I either used to be able to do that or I always wanted to do that. And I realize that I may not get there this week or ever. But what I also know is that it's a flow, it's a process, it's and so my connecting with my body, even when my body gets scared, I show up, because you've taught us to do that. I have show up and I just make the space. And there are days that I don't do it well. And there are days that I feel, that I can't quite get there. But there are many other days that I come away feeling enlightened or revitalized.
That's really nice. I'm hoping for a bit of that enlightenment then. Show me how you get there. So, right, okay, we're even more running out of time now. So I'm going to have to introduce an even more rapid fire round next, just to get through a few more questions, right, for our audience. So, right, in a few words, literally in a few words now, going round in the circle again from Joanne onwards. Okay, biggest challenges, 2 or 3 biggest challenges, Joanne, literally in a few words now.
Getting out of bed in the morning, every morning, really early at 5:30. Headstands and back bends. There you go.
Excellent. You see, now I'll spin it out because I'll then ask you a question. I'll take you. So I'm not going to ask you any extra questions about headstand, why headstand. But anyway, moving on. Meggy, challenges, and it can be. It doesn't. And short adjuncts doesn't have to be just in the physical. It can be anything. Like Joanne said in the beginning of the bed or anything.
For me, it was to stop being afraid of my feelings, the feelings in my body. Yoga helped me to learn and sit and feel and say it's okay, even if you're feeling this or that. So that's been brilliant.
Absolutely. I'd say that's definitely the case with me. I always think it's like a little mandala. Now I'm taking my own time, aren't I? There's like a little it makes a little kind of circumference around you, and within that box, anything is okay, right? Like somehow you're supported. Anyway, Nani.
Well, biggest challenge are obviously some of the asanas. And I guess for me, it's to just let go and not be attached on the outcome and just move on and say, well, today that's not going to happen. Or like Lisa said, maybe it's never going to happen, and that's okay too. So that's my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I know it's a cold comfort, but look, even when it happens, it's not that great, honestly. You know, it's not, I mean, it's okay. It feels nice, you know, but it's not that great, honestly. Aime.
Same thing, just like judging myself, good practice, bad practice, and my hips, like behind the head. Anyway, yeah.
All right. Paloma.
Well, for me, it's accept myself as I am. This is the hardest thing. I just was so sure I was to do everything, but then now I don't know. I start to think maybe not, and I have to accept and enjoy anyway. So yeah, just accept myself the way I am.
It's nice. Nicola.
Back bends, forward bends, and doing the boring stuff.
Really?
Yeah. You know, I'm rubbish at forward bends and back bends, but
not at all. But I mean, and then, you know, but it also shocks me to hear that you say that you're kind of attention and you know, like you kind of like, you don't let the boring. Yeah, because you're so meticulous, and yeah, I don't get that out of the way I see you practice, you know, not at all. Yeah,
but it takes a lot of effort to make myself do that.
Right. Well, then heads up to you for doing that. Yeah. Greg.
Probably trying to balance like life and family and yoga, and not letting it eat my life, I suppose. Trying to figure out how to like live in a house where no one else is kind of interested in what you're interested in, and trying to be like, okay, I'm not gonna try and do this thing 14 times because we're gonna have dinner around the table together.
Yeah. That, I mean, when I was asking that question, how practice has affected your life before, I think the thing is, because it can affect it for good, and it could also tip over to something else. And the biggest curse actually is that Greg's quite good at it. I had my day, and you know, and it can definitely then get a bit compulsive when you get something that's quite rewarding and you're quite good at it, and then it can actually affect you negatively in your life for a while until you learn how to balance that up, you know, and start to make things a little bit more constrictive as you have to try and carve out all this time for your own practice and stuff, you know, and then you realize that you're kind of being a bit selfish there, and there's other things you have to do and people you have to give time to, you know. So yeah, I mean, definitely there's a cycle where it makes you feel great, and then sometimes it actually doesn't, you know. And I was speaking to someone earlier how on the subject of pain in yoga, and how for many years actually was making you feel a lot worse, and she was hobbling around in you know, with really bad back pain, you know, and still doing the practice that she was doing because, you know, there's that sense that it did at one point make you feel good. So there's that need to reassess, I think, and keep trimming the sails in terms of how we approach it, you know. Lisa.
The question was challenges.
Yeah.
And the answer is not what anybody else said at all. Maybe it's because I'm challenged age-wise. It's when something goes wrong with my body. I mean, either it's something to do with a repetitive stress injury because of the yoga, but more often than that, I had the most amazing, scary cold about a week ago or so, and I was actually afraid to show up because I was shaking, and there was stuff going on in my body. So for me, the biggest challenge is when I'm not 100% in the body, and to make the effort to make the effort to show up and to follow through, not push in a an aggressive way, but the challenge is, okay, here I am, my body's wobbling. Do I dare? And just having the confidence to show up and follow through. That's the biggest challenge.
That's relevant in these days where everyone's gotten different measures of COVID and how to kind of get through that as well, and especially if you've, continuously suffered with that. One day I got up and I literally got up and I passed out cold. Yeah. I tried to get out of bed after COVID. I hit the floor. Teresa heard a bang. I was out on the floor cold. Crazy. Yeah. And I did do the Mysore online. I did teach it, but I didn't practice that day. Next day I was back. Don't worry. So, right. 2 more questions. How do you keep motivated? Again, in a few words, and I'll try and keep mine for a few words as well. How do you keep motivated when you're not feeling motivated? This is a question that everyone is interested in. Joanne.
I've now got the confidence to adapt the practice, not to think I have to do the whole hour and a half. I'll do maybe a couple of sun salutations, and to learn to listen and go, do you know what? That's enough. But I never regret getting on my mat. And I heard Kino talk once, and she said, if you practice once a week, you get 1 times better. You practice 6 times a week, you get 6 times better. And that sort of stayed with me, that resonated. And I thought also, now I'm getting older, I don't want to wake up in a few years' time thinking, I wish I had done this, because now is my time to do it. And that I have to keep reminding myself, I've got 1 chance now, and I'm going to grab it with both hands. But I never regret doing it. I always think, come on, you'll feel better for it.
Right. Now I've got a source of new motivation for myself. That's a good little speech. I'm going to put that in my head. That was nice. Yeah. Meggy.
For me, it's hushing the voice in my head in the morning that says, oh, you can stay in bed, or you don't have to do it today, or whatever. No. Okay, the mind is saying this, but step on the mat, breathe, and then you see what you can do. Low expectations, and just reminding myself that my mind is going to tell me lots of things. I can shut it off.
Yeah. Lovely. All right, Lisa, before you go, answer me that. Motivation. How do you keep motivated in a few words before you have to leave?
Well, there are a couple of things. There's the flow, the fact that I know that I am entering the flow of the Mysore, that I am entering. It is that strangely that group energy that you were deriding. I mean, I think it's marvelous. Just knowing it's there, I want to be a part of it. So that helps me a lot. And secondly, the way, because it provides that foundation for me, it's such a reward. It's such a present that even on the days when I don't feel 100% body-wise, I know, and this the most exciting thing is when I really wasn't well, and I made myself, I thought, oh, come on, do it. I felt so much better after I'd done it. I was amazed, and it helped me get through the day. So what I'm saying is, even in the darkest hour, it actually does provide the foundation and the continuity. And so there's always the promise of that the next day. So that's what keeps me going.
Lovely. I'll let you get off. Thank you for that. And yeah, that was wonderful. I wasn't deriding group energy. I'm just saying that there's pluses and minuses for practicing in a group, right? And obviously, I wouldn't want to say don't practice in a group because I teach a group. So we haven't finished. Nani, how do you get motivated? How do you keep motivated?
Well, I try not to think about it. It's just like brushing your teeth. You just ought to do it. So you don't question it. You're not going to say, am I going to brush my teeth today? No, you're just going to do it. So that's the one thing that I don't start questioning, because if I do, then things might happen. And the other thing is that having a set appointment with the online Mysore is a good thing because, you know, oh, well, I have to show up. That's my commitment. So your online Mysore class definitely helps with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Aime.
Yeah, two things. They were mentioned before. I know how I'm going to feel after. I know I'm going to feel really good. So you remember that, even if you don't have time or so much has happened, because I don't get to practice until it's 10:15 in the morning. So a lot happens from like 5 a.m. So, and like, you know, how you always talk about, you don't have to do everything. You can do half an hour, you do whatever you like, do something. So that was a total game changer for me.
Yeah. No, for me too. I always say the things that work for me, you know. I mean, they had the idea that you don't have to do everything. I mean, as much as you couldn't imagine doing the same thing every day. So even if you do, just saying to yourself, well, you know, I'll do what I want, you know, like it just takes the pressure off, doesn't it? You know, that was brilliant. And it definitely has helped me carry on all these years. Paloma.
For me, it's important to know why. Remember why I'm doing it. This helps a lot. And then also when I started to study with you, to know that I didn't need to do all and on my best every time. There was a lot of pressure, and I think I lost a lot doing that for many years. I have to do all, and I have to do my best, and sometimes at any cost. So yeah, I think know why is the basic thing that happened. Know why I'm doing it, and know that we change every day.
Very nice. That's great to hear. Yeah, that the pressure doesn't have to be there anymore. Yeah, because it shouldn't need to be there. Nicola.
I think I'm quite a self-motivated person anyway, but I think in terms of the yoga, it makes me happy. And it makes everything in my life better when I practice. And so I just don't put any pressure on myself to do anything in particular. I just turn up, get on my mat and see what happens. Some days when I feel tired, I surprise myself and I end up rocking all the way through the whole series. But if I don't, and I only manage the sun salutations before I've got to get off to work, then I'm just grateful and happy for that. And I think having that attitude just makes it easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Greg.
I mean, never kind of an energizer bunny type of human. So I kind of give myself a task and then that becomes part of kind of daily life. But I've only been doing this a couple of years, so I'm kind of interested to find out what happens when kind of get to a plateau and how my brain's going to deal with that. Unsure, but maybe I can answer it more fully in another like 10 years.
Have you read that book Mastery? We did a book club on it a while ago. You have to read that book Mastery. It's really good. Who's it by again? The name eludes me now. But yeah, Mastery. Oh my God, I recommend it so many times. Anyway, I'll send it to you. So it's about talk about the plateau, talk about what happens on the plateau and practice. I realize we're really running out of time, and I don't want to take your time, and everyone's having to get off. So last but not least, aims for the future. We're going to start with Nani. In a couple of words, what aims have you got for your future, for yourself or for your asana? Anything, can be, leg behind the head or whatever, anything. Couple of things.
Just to keep practicing. And I think particular or specific aims, they change. First the aim is to finish the primary series. Then the aim, suddenly you discover intermediate series. So I think the aim changes and it's a fluid thing. But I just, like Lisa said before, I hope my body allows me to keep practicing for a long time. So that's my aim.
Yeah. It's funny how aims shift as you get older, isn't it? When you're young, it's like, oh, I'd like to do all this. And then it's like, I just like to keep practicing. It's like, that would be good. Okay. Joanne, let's go around quickly. Thanks, Nani.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to keep getting on my mat for as long as possible and breathing. I'm grateful for everything.
Paloma.
But I'm going to
Lovely.
try a bit of third.
Well, you're very able. I don't doubt that you'll be able to do some more, honestly. Meggy.
I want to keep exploring the philosophy, really, and also bring more and more of what I'm learning on the mat to every aspect of my life. Because I think that's where the changes come from, and that's really rewarding and brilliant to see and to experience.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Aime?
Yeah, just to keep a consistent practice throughout. And in terms of, not really, I mean, to be able to practice with no pain, because sometimes you have little bouts of pain here and there, to kind of figure out how to evade that. And then to add more pranayama and meditation. I've never, ever had a meditation practice, and I know that I would get a lot out of it, I think. So, yeah.
Okay. Paloma.
Oh, I don't know. I just want to keep practicing now and be able to pass on to the people around me what I'm learning bit by bit.
Yeah, that's a different one. Yeah, the wish to pass it on, which is something, isn't it? Yeah. It's nice. Thank you. Nicola.
I'd just like to stay happy and healthy, but if I could feel comfortable in Urdhva Dhanurasana before I die, I'd be really grateful for that one.
All right, we have our work cut out. More of those drills. Yeah, get that pole out, or whether you're using that broom.
Yeah. Did you like that?
Oh yeah, I watched it a few times. Yeah, needed.
Did you see Libs at the end?
Oh no, I didn't see her. Yeah, I just watched the start of it. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'll watch it again. Greg.
I guess maybe trying to focus more on things that are harder, like in terms of things that I find like less aptitude towards, like trying to spend less time working on the things that I enjoy and more time like working on things like back bends and that kind of stuff, and like trying to do TikToks at the moment just seem like witchcraft. Not quite sure how that's a thing, but that probably comes from spending too much time working on things I do enjoy and not enough time doing things that would be more helpful.
You will get there, I don't doubt that. And that's a wrap, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. And it's the first one that I've ever done like this, so I'm really appreciative, and it's been really interesting to hear more about your stories, even though if I might know you, some more than others. I've been really quite touched by a lot of the things you've said. So thank you, and I'm sure our audience will enjoy this too. So let's see what they think of that. All right. Yeah. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you on the mat soon.